What's up, comic and pop culture fans? We are joined here with a Brian Boland-inspired Zatanna to talk about some iconic covers that are valuable solely because of how dope the cover is. Not tied to any other key significance other than that, not tied to scarcity, solely the cover driving the sales. And I did something with this list that made it a lot harder than I had to be. I basically chose one artist once. Do you know how hard it was to choose just one Jack Kirby cover? Interestingly, despite there being lots of now classic modern covers, a lot of those just need a few more decades to really see what sort of effect it's going to have on the financials with those books. Because right now, they're still pretty affordable despite being so classic. Honestly, this list is just scratching the surface, so if you can think of any awesome covers that I didn't mention that have a big price tag solely because of how sweet the cover is, drop it below. Let's get it started with, ironically, one of the most recent entries on the list, Batgirl 23, the variant by Joshua Middleton. There's a lot of great looking Batgirl covers out there, and for whatever reason, this particular one just resonates with so many fans. Me personally, I also would love it. I don't have it. I would love it for my Batman collection. It just would fit in so nice. We all are suckers for some good covers. How about Catwoman 51 by Adam Hughes? There's a lot of these, what I call the Audrey Hepburn, Adam Hughes looking covers with the Catwomans, and there's quite a few Catwomans you can choose from. Most recently, I love the Detective Comics 1000 Catwoman cover, but we're talking about 51. This thing is solid as a rock. It's always like a $300 9.8, has been for years, and it doesn't seem to be going anywhere. Wow, what a great one. Next up is going to be Mask Comics #1. It was tough to choose a great LB Cole cover, to narrow it down to one, but I think this one shows all the crazy saturation and colors and tattoo style the best. This is some awesome Golden Age goodness. Next one of the most famous, Hulk 340 by Todd McFarlane. This was also tricky narrowing down a Todd McFarlane one, but if you remember, our criteria is it can't be a key. So Spawn 1 and 300 are out. So just 340, the cover drives the sales on that one. Next up is the only one on this list that's not technically a comic cover. It's a famous poster or pinup. It's the Batman and Robin rooftop pinup by Carmine Infantino. That's right, you have absolutely seen this before, and you've probably seen it homaged quite a bit through the years. I know Norm Brayfogle did one. I know that there's a Captain Atom book that does the same thing. You could see this a lot. Iconic for a reason, looks absolutely gorgeous, and stands the test of time. Fantastic Four 112 by John Buscema. Picking a Buscema was also pretty difficult here, but there's no other key significance to this book other than an iconic Hulk versus Thing cover. And this is probably one of my favorites of the many Hulk versus Thing covers. I love the stark black background. I like the anatomy on this. A lot of people tend to agree, and it shows with the sales data. Let's take a trip back in time and go with Spirit 22 by Will Eisner. And he does a lot of stuff that's a lot more detailed than this, but if you stick to his most iconic covers, you may have even seen this. It might be familiar to you. Will Eisner, I mean, you probably recognize that from the Eisner Awards for comic covers and such. This is the main dude back in the day, and just take a look. Obviously, it speaks for itself. Then we got Batman 156, Sheldon Moldoff. And actually, this comic trope of Batman carrying Robin or so-and-so carrying so-and-so has been homaged plenty of times. So Superman carrying a dead Supergirl, you've absolutely seen this before, but this cover does it great and with some crazy colors and art. This is the first one, classic stuff. Daredevil 53 by Gene Colan. There are other Gene Colan covers I like actually a lot more, but I'm not going off of personal opinion. We're going off of sales data and books that turn a profit because of how the cover looks. And 53 is Gene Colan's most memorable, cool Daredevil cover. Strange Adventures 207 by Neil Adams. This cover actually won an award, and so did the story within. This is one of the best comics, not only just from that year, but from that decade. This is classic stuff, but it's the cover that makes it the value. It's pretty fantastic, and it was tough to pick a Neil Adams cover, but we're giving it to the Dead Man one. Next is going to be Cinderella Love 25 by Matt Baker. I really wanted to do Phantom Lady, but I remembered that Phantom Lady 17 is valuable because it was referenced in Seduction of the Innocent. So I had to pick one that's considered a classic Matt Baker cover that's not referenced in Seduction of the Innocent. So we're obviously going to go with this absolute gorgeous cover. By the way, if you want a rabbit hole, look up Matt Baker romance covers. They're gorgeous. Let's go with Jungle Action 23. I am wearing an extremely worn and ratty version of it, but this is the most iconic Black Panther image that exists. And that is a John Byrne cover. John Byrne does a lot of really great covers, but a lot of his really great and most famous covers are tied to being a key and didn't quite fall on this list. So I'm choosing Jungle Action 23 and I'm sticking with it. That thing is sick. Same with this next guy, Mike Zeck. I mean, think about how many great covers he's done. We're gonna go with Captain America Annual 8 because it's the cover that makes this value stand on its own. I'm thinking immediately about all the Kraven's Last Hunt books, but this one we have to stick with because it is the cover that does everything here. Can it get more iconic than this? Not really. Next up is a book I have owned a 9.0, a 9.2, a 9.4, a 9.6, and actually a 9.8 of the crazy awesome Bernie Wrightson Swamp Thing number 9. Why I ever sold those, I'll never know. But this thing speaks for itself. Just look at it. And honestly, Bernie, you guys probably know he is one of my favorite artists of all time, so of course I'm going to gush over him, but just look. Avengers 223 by Ed Hannigan, the iconic shooting Ant-Man right into your face. Does it get more iconic imagery than this? I love that they actually used this in the MCU Civil War movie. That is when life imitates art, and it's awesome. Hulk Annual number 1. Choosing a Hulk for a Jim Steranko entry instead of a Nick Fury or a Captain America was pretty crazy, but look how iconic this thing is. This is something you see referenced in statues. This is something you see referenced everywhere you go. Another one of those most homaged covers of all time. This thing is abundantly classic. And Jim Steranko, nice man. My favorite. I actually did a video just towards this guy, Aquaman 42. So Nick Cardy actually did Aquaman's up to issue 39, but he popped on for the cover of 42. There's a lot of guys on this list that have a great composition, but Nick Cardy always understood it so well. Aquaman frickin' 42, man. Wonder Woman 72 by Brian Boland. I was gonna choose a Zatanna cover, but all those Zatanna covers that had the crazy value were tied to being some sort of key, so I actually am opting to go with Wonder Woman 72, a completely standalone book that's expensive just because of its cover. Iconic, and actually you've definitely seen this before. If you remember the first appearance of Angela, Spawn number 9, that's an homage to this. Let's go with Iron Man 128 by Bob Layton. I actually just had a 9.8 and sold it of that. Iconic, super creepy eyes Iron Man. This is when everyone realized, oh, this dude's got a problem. Well, the cover is one of the most famous heroes in an uncomfortable situations that we've ever gotten covers ever. We're going real early here with Batman number 9, Jack Bunley. I mean, this iconic floodlight or the spotlight, whatever you want to call it, with Batman and Robin. This is another one of those super iconic imageries, much like the rest of this list. It is valuable also because of how old it is, and it is a single-digit Batman book. The instantly, iconically memorable art is what I think really drives this. Green Lantern 49 by Daryl Banks is probably one of the cheapest entries on this list. It is right in the middle of some other Green Lantern keys, but that particular issue is not technically a key. So the only thing that saves it from dollar bin obscurity is this absolutely iconic art. This is now turned into another comic cover that's been homaged extensively. I love this thing. It is a very affordable one. You can get it for $10, $15 for like a perfect raw. We got Wonder Woman Black and Gold by Warren Lau. Warren Lau does a lot of really pretty good girl style-ish covers. He's known also for his Power Girls, for his Harley Quinns. I like this one the best. I think a lot of people just found the cover just so cute, honestly. It's just a really absolutely stunning Wonder Woman, and there's obvious why this comic book does what it does. Let's go real early with Superman 14 by Fred Ray. This is another one of those, kind of reminds me of the Batman 9, but this is the kind of the first Superman with the eagle and the flag. I mean, this is Superman at his best. Wartime soups here. Truth, Justice, and the American Way, folks. This is the OG Superman that I'll be curious to see how is represented in the new upcoming movie. Uncanny X-Men 207, John Romita Jr. I wanted to find a great X-Men key that stood on its own because of the cover. So I landed on this obvious Wolverine scratching the pages of the comic book right in front of your face. This is some great stuff. He learned from the best. Captain America 115 by Marie Severin. There's some great Golden Age Red Skull covers, but I actually really dig this Silver Age one. This is pretty darn sweet, man. And there's no other key significance to the book. It really is just the cover that makes the book do what it does. Let's do Daredevil 179. You knew I had to throw one Frank Miller on here. Frank Miller was tricky because a lot of his most iconic covers were also keys. So I had to ignore them and I had to choose one that was just an iconic cover and nothing else going on. So we're doing this Elektra cover. It's absolutely gorgeous. Right in that pocket, that whole run, all those covers with Daredevil at the time in the 80s were just amazing. You guys know it. So choosing one was a little tricky. You can honestly probably choose them all. Amazing Spider-Man 33 by Steve Ditko. I don't know why I would divulge this information willingly, but I actually really like Ditko's art long before he did Spider-Man. I like when he was doing like sci-fi and other weird stuff, but when it comes to Spider-Man, this thing is iconic. Number 33, the classic Spider-Man stuck under the rubble and using his strength to get out of there. Come on, that is so iconic. Alien Worlds number 4 by Dave Stevens. There was a recent documentary that kind of boosted some Dave Stevens knowledge and a little bit of awareness about him and his gorgeous covers. Another guy who's kind of famous for the more good girl style, and pretty much all of his covers are not tied to any real key significance. So I actually had quite the time choosing one, and I decided Alien Worlds 4 looked the best to me. There's a lot of Dave Stevens ones that do crazy value, and it's all because of just his art. Fantastic Four 72. I like how we're almost done the list, and it's the first time I've mentioned Jack Kirby. Crazy. Jack Kirby, man, I mean, he is the most iconic artist, obviously. That's hands down obvious, I would hope. But I had to go with 72. Now, there's a pocket on FF that I think every cover is perfect, but there's also so much key significance in them. We have to mention 72 because it's simply just the cover that sells this. Awesome Silver Surfer art cut against the background of the cosmos. This one was really tough for me. Startling Comics 49, Alex Schoenberg. I actually think Schoenberg has like 100 covers that I would actually consider perfect. And all of them have value simply because it's his name attached to it. It's kind of like Carl Barks. Well, I have to go with this one. It's one of the most iconic of all his many. And I often call it the Bender cover because it really looks like Futurama's Bender. But this thing is great. Ahead of his time, the attention to detail was absolutely crazy, especially for the time. Amazing Spider-Man 75, John Romita Sr., rest in peace. My man, I do love this cover. The Spider-Man walking away. I mean, does it get more iconic than this? I love it. And it's very similar to ASM 50, but I think the color scheme and a little bit other things make it even better. And this is a book with a high price tag because of the art on the cover alone. Detective Comics 880 by Jock. Remember I mentioned at the beginning of the video, there's a lot of new modern classic covers out there, but they're still not really extra valuable than the average comic, so we need a few more decades to see how they're going to be affected and how the prices will rise on some of them. Well, not this one. Detective Comics 880 is already expensive, has been for some time. I remembered, I don't know if it still is, it was like a $500 9.8 and even higher at one point. I don't know if that's still going on, but this thing is a beast. Really iconic art. I'm going to end with a Wally Wood. Why don't we go with Shock Suspense Stories number 6. Wally Wood, just like Will Eisner, just like all the greats at the time, does he get more classic? Not really. This is the grandfather of so many art styles that owe so much to him, but this one is just, my God, if I could own this book, I would die happy. I love this cover so much. It is absolutely crazy. And there's a lot of art that he did that's amazing. but we're going to give it to this one here. What a wild value attached to this too. Guys, what did I miss? What are some covers that have a big expensive payday just because of the cover alone? Let me know down in the comments below. I'll see you at the next video, and keep on hunting. Make sure to come on down to Sentiment Depot's Antiques and Collectibles, located at 238 West Delaware Ave in Pennington, New Jersey. Find so many great books for just $1 and the lowest prices on key comics around. Enjoy a huge selection of graded comics priced up to 20% lower than current fair market value. We are open from Wednesday to Sunday, closed Monday, Tuesday. You got a collection you want to sell? Bring that too. Can't wait to see you there.